35, yes. That
Yeah.
that has
So
been, I
it's-
believe, already removed.
It's,
35, not 130, 35. 35 AC is gone.
it's gone. Okay.
Yeah. All the 35 AC, 1, 2, that's all gone. So there's only ADG left. Yes, Kurma.
But for CSR, there's nothing like ATG. It is nothing like ATG for CSR. CSR is completely independent of the ATG because the 2% which they are supposed to spend, that is not that that
No, it's profit before tax.
so the out of the profit they're supposed to spend 2%. That is ATG. Nothing is like that.
As I said, it's a little vague. One person has told me one thing, another person has told me another thing. It is physically a donation. The money coming out is not an expenditure. It can be. You can spend it out of your and if you were expending it out of your accounts, it's only an expense, there's no tax advantage.
Yes.
But if you give that money to an ADG registered entity and they spend it, my understanding is they do get ADG benefit. But
Yeah, I run a corporate myself. So what happens here is if you are having a complete separate accounting for CSR,
yeah,
let's say you yourself spending on some project as a corporate, then that comes under 2%, you can have a full deduction. But the most of the accountants or accounting systems, they have a tedious issues of handling a complete separate accounts, billings and all that stuff. So then they prefer
tedious.
as in a word, not TDS.
Yeah.
Yes, not
tedious.
TDS,
It is
but
tedious.
tedious.
It's like tedious to
Yes.
handle
Hard.
stuff. It's hard. Okay.
Laborious.
Yeah. To maintain all the different documents and stuff, so they prefer just give a donation and get a receipt against it, and it's finished. So so you have to spend 2%. If you get ATG, you get a 50% deduction.
Yes.
But then what we have found is in some of the organization in under ATG, we are able to claim 100% also. Yeah. So just like in Pune, we have Bhaktaprada School. If you are giving a donation to that in the system, when we upload the invoice, we get 100% deduction. But for any other, maybe ISKCON or something, if I spend, I get only 50%. So my accountant this year said, "Sir, please spend there, because I'm going to get more deduction."
Well, we'll
here."
have to look into that and see. You'll have to advise us on how to do that.
Okay, I think
Yeah.
this should be clarified directly from this IAC or some corporate body because otherwise not we but the corporate may land up in trouble for using.
No, I agree. As far my research has said that it's as of now, ADG is there for donations that a company does. You'll see the act says that how can you spend your 2%? You can spend it yourself directly, or you can spend it through an organization that you set up, or you can spend it through an organization that has 3 years track record and does it, the project. So my understanding is they do get ADG benefit, but we'll get this clarified. Okay? Any other questions? Yeah, the question is, I'm a corporate. I have to, or I want to spend this 2%. All right. I have a CSR policy. I don't want to go through, like he described, the tedious process of setting up a whole wing of my company just for CSR. So I prefer to just give this money to someone else, let them do it under a memorandum of understanding. They will then give me a accounting of fund utilization account, it's called. They'll give me a fund utilization account, how my funds were utilized. I can then report that in my CSR, because the CSR law says two things. It says, number one, spend this money. Number two, report. Okay, and if you look in the beginning of the manual, it describes just basically what has to be reported. So now the company is in position, okay, I've spent this money, this is how it's been spent. This is, and they can report in that form, there's a form for reporting, how that 2% money was spent. Now, in addition, because they've now given this to a nonprofit that has ADG, they're also able to claim a deduction under ADG in their normal state. Yes. So that's the understanding. We'll get a firm clarification on this because it has come up a few times. Somebody was saying that no, but I will get it clarified to make sure. But it's a benefit to the company. And in any case, we can give the receipt. From our side, there's no issue. We give an ADG receipt. Okay? All right. Yes, it's an advantage for them to spend it through us or someone like us. So again, the reporting, the expenditure utilization reports, the project reports itself, what have you achieved, what are the accomplishments, and then the project evaluation report, which is how the impact assessment of the project. Okay, any more on this standard procedures, what your relationship with the CCC, and then we're going to get into this big topic of coordinating the corporate approaches. No, we do not yet have any standardized format. Basically, what you're going to be doing is giving us reports, copies of reports that you're making to the people who are giving you the money. Generally speaking, that should satisfy our requirements. Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Sometimes like some banks, they give CSR in the name of advertisement. So what to
That's not CSR. That's advertisement.
yes.
They might, they can't claim that as CSR.
So what should be our approach in like
We're happy to take the money, but don't give them any sort of document that they can claim it as CSR, because it's not CSR.
Okay.
If they're getting something out of it, if they're getting there's a lot of things that aren't CSR. For example, if they're training their own employees, is not CSR. There's a list of things that are not CSR. Paying for advertisements in a nonprofit's souvenir is not CSR. But we're happy to take it.
Generally what they do is, okay, I'm giving you for your costs, but in return, I want advertisement in your booklet. So it's just a reciprocation they are expecting. It's not, they are saying directly I'm paying for the advertisement, I'm giving you for your costs, but in
Yes,
reciprocation
that we can do. We can recognize people in our souvenirs, etc. We can put their plaque up on the wall. We can give them all kinds of recognition. But we can't show this, at least in our books, and they shouldn't show it in their books, as advertising expenditure.
There is, sorry, one second.
Yes, yeah. Advertising, they would not get an ADG receipt. Yes, for a donation, then, and then we give them some recognition, no problem.
Calcutta seems to have standardized it actually. They organize the Rath Yatra, which is sponsored by SBI. It says SBI presence, Kolkata Rath Yatra. Now that's a proper standard to operate on, because then everything is out there in open. That we were the one who organized the Rath Yatra. Those guys were the ones who funded the Rath Yatra. All the outdoor bills have been paid by SBI, not by us. You know, like that. So it's a joint project then.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of platform that we should try and achieve. No, it's
no,
not
it's
CSR.
not CSR
It
at
is
all.
sponsorship.
It's just sponsorship. It's
It is
advertising.
sponsorship. So like, Viplav or any other event. Because the advertising topic that came up, so I'm saying sponsorship is the ideal approach or the platform. So we should have one-off projects where we can seek sponsorship, give them visibility in return, but it can be documented, but it has got nothing to do with CSR. It's a separate
Yeah.
field completely.
Here. Yes. Back there and then. I'm sorry, I have to take a blanket apology from everyone that I forget everybody's name practically. Few names I remember. It's my defect.
Hare
Nothing to
Krishna.
do with you. Okay.
Raja Madhu Mangal Das.
Hare Krishna. I have to hear it 4 or 5 times, then I know it.
Madhu Mangal Das.
Hare Krishna.
So Prabhuji, sometime like this, in this kind of situation, when we advertise someone and we do some kind of this, means we give them prasadam, food, not prasadam, and as you said, we cannot give them in that situation ATG receipt, and company also doesn't want the ATG receipt, and they ask for the billing. So we cannot raise the bill. What?
Bill for what?
Like if we have advertised them in our
Yeah.
magazine, or we have given them some food, and they don't.
That's an account. I don't know that accounting. That's outside of my realm. You'll have to clarify that with your accountants. I don't know. If they show as an advertising expense, I believe that you can give them a bill, but I don't know about that. Yes.
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, I was involved in that SBI thing in Kolkata. So there it is purely an advertisement. They never said it is a CSR.
Right.
But in Pune, I recently got around 2-3 lakhs from advertisement from banks. So one HDFC, they told, I saw their mails also when they were discussing between them and their mails also. They referred it as CSR among themselves. And they also told me verbally that actually this is a CSR, but we are giving it as an advertisement. So what should be our approach? That is like how to
Well,
deal.
it's tricky. Please write to us about that. We'll take it up. I mean, the only question would be whether you need to get some prior approval from CCC for that type of thing. But my sense of it is that let's take a look at this. Are we risking anything ourselves by accepting this? Do you have to give them anything that says this is CSR, or they're just doing this internally? Yeah, but you haven't provided them with any letter saying thank you very much for your donation under CSR for XYZ. So I think that from our side, I don't see any problem, but they may have a problem.
See, the field of CSR is actually evolving to both the implementing agencies as well as to the corporates. It's new to both the sides. And in this typical scenario, it's the company that's at fault, because it's their own lack of knowledge about their accounting systems, reporting and procedures, because under which category they will showcase it.
Yeah, they may have something internally. They may have
But
worked
as
something
long
out.
as we do not give them a paperwork,
Yeah.
we are safe.
Anything more? Yes.
So
Guruji.
we are
Amoga. We're running out of time. We've got a few more things. At 12 o'clock, I want to start another topic. So this next topic, can we move on? Maybe you can say, is it very quick? Because I want this next topic could be very sensitive.
Prabhuji, who else can take legal action against us in case the party who is donating us, they are okay, we are receiving, we are okay? Is there any third person who can legally take action? Because like in Hindi they say, Miyan Biwi Razi to kya karega Qazi? If husband and wife are happy, what will the priest do? So that way, in case the receiving party and
The only other people that can take action against us are the other corporates who get to hear about it, and then they think that we're not in the right category of people that they want to deal with.
so in case they can also give us, we can be happy with them.
Anyway, let's be careful. We don't want a black mark. So can we move on to the next topic? Because this is going to be big, and we do have other things. Something really quick?
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, as per Schedule 7, it's mentioned that we can present the Bhaktivedanta libraries kind of project as CSR projects. So, can we consider like, suppose we are doing something online, something based on Prabhupada's, like Bhaktivedanta library, something, or a value education based mobile application, can we present such a project as CSR?
Second half question.
Yeah.
After
It
3:30.
is certainly, and she'd save it for our afternoon session because it'll be part of what we're doing. Okay, let's go on to this because we need to cover this. All right, I'm just going to get, just prior to this, just to give you some background, these little highlights of what we're talking about. This is from 2016. This is the report of an organization that tracks this. How many reported, how many actually spent CSR, how much should have been spent, how much actually was spent, about 74%. 10 of those, 32% of that was spent by the top 10 companies. And there are a few other things here. This is where it was spent. Number one, vast 1/3 of it is on health. This number one schedule, right? It was mentioned that this heritage, art, and culture is way down there as number 10. Only about 10% of the total. This is where it's being spent. The biggest concentration is in Maharashtra.
And Delhi is 3%.
Delhi is 277 crore, or I think that's, yeah, 277 crores. Maharashtra is 1,148. Gujarat. This is where the money, not where the money's coming from, but where the money's being spent. Okay? The corporates may, and we'll see that next. So this gives you an idea of where money's getting spent. But where's it coming from? Out of the top 1,000 companies, almost 300 are based in Mumbai. Head offices. The head offices are in Mumbai. And very often, the CSR policies and the CSR decisions are taken at the head office. Okay? Even though they may have branches all over and they may be interested in spending money in an area of operations, they'll have to take the decision at the head office. So that's why this topic is so important. 700 of the top 1,000 companies are in 7 cities. Almost 300 in Mumbai. We do have those numbers. I just didn't make the graph of it. Okay, so now we're going to get into the topic of, okay, 700 of the top 1,000 companies are in 7 cities, but we're from all over. So those companies may also have activities in our areas. Or they may have a policy that includes promotion or engaging in an activity, which we can do. So how do we approach those companies when they're not local? How do we, sitting in Chennai, and we want to approach, say, especially the PSUs, ONGC or GAIL or whatever those big companies are, and we're sitting in some place, we know that they have an interest, they have an operation, they have a possibility. How do we do this without problems? Okay, so this issue was understood. It was brought to the Bureau. The Bureau agreed. We have to have a mechanism. We have to have a way to deal with this. So we came up with a mechanism, and we're going to go through this, and we're going to talk about how to do this. Okay? So, it begins with some definitions. We have to define things here because this is all, by the way, in your document, but it's also here, so you don't need to, it's all repeated here. So the first definition is the local center. We call this the LC. So the local center is the center in the geographical region where the corporate headquarters or the corporate CSR decision-making body is located. So this would be, in many cases, in one of those top 7 cities, and especially Mumbai and Delhi. Cultivating relationship is another important term here, because what this means is that the local center has a cultivating relationship with the corporate when that corporate has given donations to the local center repeatedly in the past. The local cultivating representative means that person who's been personally cultivating relationships with that corporate. And finally is the visiting center representative. That's the CSR representative from a center that's outside of the region of the local center. Okay? So in this room, I can identify 1, 2 local cultivating representatives. Mumbai, who's here from Mumbai? You're a local cultivating representative. He knows companies.
Jadu Prabhu also.
Jadu Thakur, he's an LCR. You're not yet going out to the corporates, are you? Or you're okay. Raja Prem. Kurma Avatar from Kanpur. And of course many of you are the LC in your region. Okay. But many of you will possibly be VCs to some other place. So what do? The CCC is going to work with you to help you identify opportunities. And you may, okay, I'm in Chennai, and in Chennai there's a big Tata plant or something like that. And I know, okay, Tata, and I develop a relationship with the branch director, whatever it is, I don't know what the designations are, there. And he says, yeah, okay, let's see what we can do here. Now, but it has to go to our CSR wing of such and such. So what's the next step? So these are the steps. The first thing is that any visiting center that wants to go outside of their area to seek funding for CSR, they have to be trained. They have to be authorized. They can't, that goes for everything. But just make that a point. And the first step they have to do is they have to approach the local center. They can't, policy-wise, now they can do anything they like, and some do, I'm afraid.
Not some.
Many. But it's our policy, it's the Bureau's policy, that if you want to approach a corporate for CSR, we're only dealing here now with CSR, building your temples or whatever, I leave that to other people to deal with, okay? But when it comes to CSR, please cooperate with this policy. First step, for everyone's benefit, okay? So the first step is you have to approach the local cultivating representative, whoever's got a relationship. Now, how do you know who that is? That we'll get into. That if you don't, how do you find out who that local cultivating representative is? You can do it through us. We'll let you know if we know. We're going to try to create a database so that we know who's connected to who. That's something that you can help us do. If you have a relationship with a corporate, then we're going to be asking you. Hopefully you'll respond and say, yes, I have a relationship with this particular corporate. We'll then have it in our database. We can inform the visiting center, this is the person you've got to talk to. Okay? And that person is obligated. This is what the Bureau has passed, and we hope you will all accept it. That you have to, if you're the local cultivating representative, you have to support it unless there's some problem. And what problem could be there? First of all, that visiting center has not obtained approval. They're not approved. Their project is not approved. So that, of course, that's just, then they're out of, they shouldn't even be there. We should know about that. The second is that you know that project that they want to approach with, it doesn't fit into the policy of that corporate. They may not have done their homework properly. They may be thinking, oh, this is, just a right fit, but it isn't. And you know that. And you say, okay, no, I'm not going to facilitate this. More likely, it may be that you have a similar project. You're doing values education, or you're doing a Goshala or something like that. You're already in dialogue with that corporate about supporting your local project. So then you have a call to make here, and we'll get into that. The call here is, well, what's going to maximize the relationship with this corporate